small business supporters, I'm Savvy and welcome back to Savvy Writes Books, the channel where we talk about books and business. And I have one question for you guys. Do you know what is better than a video about books or business? The answer is a video about both books and business. Sorry, just kidding. There was a part 2 to that question. I have 2 questions for you. Do you know what's better than a Savvy video about books and business at the same time? The answer to that is a video about books and business at the same time by not just one Sav, but 2 Savs. That's right. Today you're getting all of it. I'm going to be collabing again with my good friend Savannah Marie, who is a fellow YouTuber who makes a lot of content in the anti-multi-level marketing space, talks a lot about exploitative business practices and why those things need to end and things like that. And today we have decided to do a Boss Babe book review for you guys together. So keep in mind, in just a minute, I'm going to switch over to me and Savannah talking together and our discussion about this book that we read. But keep in mind that after you watch this video, you will want to head over to her channel as well, which I have linked in the description below, where there you will find the other part of our collab on this video, where she and I are going to be talking about some more parts of the book, some more things about it, all those kind of things. We had a very long conversation that went on for about an hour and a half, so we have a lot of things to discuss about this book. Without further ado, what is the book? Savvy, what is the book that you guys read? It is this book right here. It is called Broken Pieces Created My Purpose. It is written by Erica Alexander Cole. If you have not heard of Erica Alexander Cole before, this woman is very interesting, and we had a lot of mixed feelings about both her and her work, but what she is probably most famous for at this point is being a top distributor in the Paparazzi MLM company. We've talked about Paparazzi on this channel a couple times before. Basically, they're a multi-level marketing company that sells $5 jewelry, very cheap, poorly made jewelry, where people then recruit others into their downline to continue to sell more cheap and poorly made jewelry. It's a borderline pyramid scheme. I won't call it a full pyramid scheme for legal reasons, but it is a shady company that I have never supported. Another thing that's important to note about Paparazzi is that about a year-ish ago, maybe 2 years ago, time is an illusion. I don't understand what's going on anymore. But a couple years ago, they had a big convention right in the height of a big COVID outbreak where a lot of people unfortunately contracted COVID from that convention, and there were even reported cases of people who ended up dying of COVID at the convention, or not at the convention, but after the convention. I briefly talked about this in a video that I did, and when this was actually happening, Savannah put out a fantastic video about this, which was extremely thorough and well researched, but basically talking about how the Paparazzi convention did not require people to wear masks, it did not require proof of vaccination, it did not require any negative tests. They basically completely forgot about COVID, and this woman, Erica, was out there basically telling people, don't shit talk this convention, don't let this make Paparazzi look bad. It was all about the MLM and the bottom line at the end of the day. So recently she released this book, which is her memoir and her journey of becoming a successful businesswoman. The book doesn't talk about paparazzi itself as much as I expected that it would, and we'll get into the details of all of that in the review. There were still a lot of boss babe and hustle culture style red flags in this book, but at the same time, there were areas where this book had a lot of promise, and I think with a few rewrites and a good editor could have been something really impactful that actually did have the potential to help women. So there's a lot of mixed feelings about this book. We're going to be talking in depth about the book of a top level paparazzi boss babe. Let's get into it.
Get you some nuts.
Yeah, you effing.
Up yours, woke moralist. We'll see who cancels who.
Before we continue with today's video topic, first we have a word from our sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Atlas VPN, a virtual private network to help you stay secure while using the internet. Atlas VPN is running a fantastic deal right now where you can subscribe for their premium service at just $1.83 per month with 3 months extra included with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So what can a VPN do for you? Well, as I've told you guys a few times on this channel, later this month, I'm looking forward to going to Europe for the first time ever. But when you go abroad, you can't always access everything on the internet the same way you can back home. Like, say you want to watch a show on Netflix, but it's not available in the country that you're in. A VPN can help you here. And with Atlas VPN, you can continue binge watching your favorite shows on Netflix even when you're in another country. But outside of the fun stuff like that, Atlas VPN can also help you with internet security. On this channel, I love calling out internet scammers and people who try to scam people and take advantage of you online. Because of that, I've become very aware of how many people are out there sending malicious links or trying to use your data from your Google searches to advertise things to you. With Atlas VPN, you can block malicious links, block ads and trackers, and get notified if anyone tries to steal your data. Best of all, with just one subscription to Atlas VPN, you can get all of your devices covered, so you can keep your computers, your phones, your tablets, and more all safe. Right now, Atlas VPN Premium is running a huge deal where you can subscribe for just $1.83 per month with an extra 3 months included and a 30-day money-back guarantee. To take advantage of this deal, go ahead and click on the link in my description below or head to get.atlasvpn.com/savvy to sign up. Thank you so much to Atlas VPN for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get back into our topic. There's a few things in this book that I do want to say I think were pretty good. I want to give a few positives about this. I tried to look at this book being like, okay, if I were the editor for this, if there were an editor for this, what would I have pointed out and things like that. I think that there were some places where she had a lot of potential and didn't follow through, but I noticed the potential being there. So the whole, like, the title of the book is Broken Pieces Created My Purpose, and the whole book is about, like, okay, here are all the bad things that happened in my life, and here's how I learned from those things, and here's how I grew and they made me stronger. And throughout the book, she does have places where she starts to play into the imagery of that motif, which I like. Like, for example, on page 76, she starts bringing out the imagery of it a little bit, where she's talking about fleeing from Hurricane Katrina, and she's driving over a bridge, and she says, the bridge was broken into multiple pieces. The bridge was really a symbol of what had happened. Like that bridge, lives were broken. Some were broken into pieces that could never be put back together. And I was like, oh, you're onto something there, where you've got like this title about how broken pieces, when you put them together, you can come out stronger in the end, and that's what your whole story is about. And now you've got this symbolism that she's, you know, aware of and intentionally calling out as symbolism of breaking pieces off of the bridge and how difficult it's going to be as a representation of people's lives breaking when they have to flee the hurricane and things like that. So I wish she'd gone further with that metaphor there, because I'm like, oh, she's getting it. And I wish she had almost done something like that in every chapter, had a moment where she talked about how the imagery of the pieces being broken and how those could come together. Because there was another place where she brought it up, too, on page 152, where she's talking about Shay's murder. She says, after her funeral, I tried to pick up the pieces. She goes on for a little bit and then says, I still think about my sister's childhood and how everyone was always arguing and fighting because of her actions, which now I feel were cries for attention. She was a broken little girl who became a broken woman. So she talks about her sister's brokenness. She talks about the pieces of her family's brokenness around them. So it's like, again, tying back to the title and this overall theme of like piecing things together. I think that she could have brought that out more, could have done more with it, because there was, I would consider that like potential for something strong to come out of this writing that could resonate a little more. But there was definitely the potential there, so she was like onto something, but like didn't carry it through all the way, which was a little frustrating. But also I thought was a good thing, like it was a good starting point. And then there was another thing that I really liked about this book, and that was the emphasis on found family and the emphasis on bringing your, like, building familial connections rather than just assuming family is dictated by blood. I thought that was a really nice, I mean, it also kind of goes along with the pieces thing, because she's got like the puzzle pieces on the cover, and you see the pieces of her life coming together and building something that can be very beautiful, even if those things come from broken pieces. So like looking at people, like kids in her life who her parents fostered, who didn't have a family that eventually she came to see as another sister, or people in her life that due to like a bad circumstance or whatever, they would end up becoming part of each other's family and then carrying that on through decades. I thought that was actually really beautiful, and I really liked seeing her emphasis on, like, I guess she had two biological sisters. She had Kathy and Shay, but then she had all these other sisters as well who were not from the same parents as her, but they were still part of her family and part of her life. I really liked that. I like when books or media in general emphasize that family doesn't have to just be the people that you are birthed out of, or your ancestry or your genetics or things like that, but family is about building bonds of love and being there for each other. And as someone who's been adopted on one side of my family, I'm not related to most people in my family, blood related, but you know, it's still nice to see people recognizing that family can go beyond that as well. And I like that message. So I think that was a very heartwarming story, like the way that she and all these other women have been there for each other throughout so many decades. Like, that's something that I would love to see more of in this world, that I would love to have more of in my life. Like, I think that there were some really nice things there. So
they do have a really great support system between all of them. And I've always thought that, as far as like watching Era's girls and stuff, like, even though they're not blood related, or even like marriage related or anything like that, they're just two different sets of people that just happened to meet, and they, you know, found themselves a new family. And I've always thought that that's really, really important, and like you said, like something that we need to see more of, people supporting each other whether or not you share the same blood. And I absolutely agree. I love their family dynamic. I always have. It's just it's heartwarming to see. Heartwarming? Heartworm. Get your dogs checked for heartworm.
Heartworm, yes.
It's heartwarming to see that kind of stuff. And and I'm glad they all had each other to lean on and stuff. That all being said, I also think that played into a lot of Erica's success as a paparazzi distributor, because she had a large network of people, and I do know for sure that Kathy, April, and Trinette, if not more of her family, definitely were also in paparazzi, or are in paparazzi.
Is her mom in paparazzi?
I don't know, but she definitely wears paparazzi jewelry all the time. Maybe. And I wouldn't be surprised, really, because like I'm sure Era has like a large network within like church and stuff like that. She doesn't strike me as the social media type, though. So like, how, I don't know, she's an older lady, obviously.
Era seemed really nice throughout this book. I mean, I know we're reading someone's perspective of their own mom, but like, I just really liked her. The characterization of her, I was like, oh, Era seems nice.
She is. And like when we watch Era's girls, the dynamic between Kathy and Era, Kathy being Era's biological daughter, they're always like kind of bickering, but like playful bickering. And I always think they're so funny. There's just a lot of love there. There is. It does go back to, it's like, okay, so Erica was able to build this entire empire beneath her with paparazzi. Likely, I mean, she doesn't go into it in detail in this book, but likely because we know that at least 3 of her sisters/god sisters were in her downline and also in the same pyramid scheme. She obviously like recruited everyone she knew. She had built herself enough of a successful life that people in her life started to trust her with business decisions, because like we were saying, she was a successful businesswoman in corporate America, and she was successful to the point where she was pretty much financially free, from what I understood, the way she was talking about it in this book. Like, she had plenty of money to just do whatever. So I think she kind of established that kind of like big sister looking up to her kind of trust, where it's like, oh, you think I should join this pyramid scheme? Okay. All right, you know what, Erica, if you say so, you've always been good with money and stuff. I think it definitely put some pieces together there where I'm like, oh, okay, no wonder you were able to be successful in paparazzi. Plus, she had money from her corporate job and stuff to be able to buy all that inventory and invest in the inventory in the first place, which most people don't even have that. So
yeah. There's some weird moments in this about, because as we mentioned, she does talk about the convention that a lot of people got COVID at, and we saw that she had that message that she sent out to people being like, don't use this convention where everyone got COVID as a way to make paparazzi look bad and things like that. She talks about in the chapter where she's going through IVF treatments and she's in the hospital, I think this is page 203, she goes to the emergency room, and she knew that because of COVID, her husband couldn't come in to be with her, so she had to be alone. But then at the bottom of the page, she says, my cousin called and prayed with me and told me he was on his way. He knew by him being a minister, they would let him in, even if they wouldn't let Brian in. So I was like, wait. What is this hospital's COVID policy? Like, you can't bring your spouse in to the emergency room with you, but you can bring in a minister because God will protect you from COVID? Like, what's going on here?
Where was she at this time? Was she still in Atlanta? Or no, Orlando. So she was in Florida by now.
I mean she's in the South the whole book, so I know that the way that a lot of Florida, Alabama, a lot of those states didn't have the best COVID response, so I'm not... This was the section This was right before she went to the paparazzi convention, right before she had the miscarriage. So some things like that, I was just like, what is going on here?
She definitely does make some very interesting life choices here and there.
There's the page where she's first trying to do IVF, and she talks about, like, this part, again, I feel weird critiquing this, because I'm like, I know that infertility was a massive struggle for her, and, like, I encourage every woman to tell her story about that, because it's important to get that conversation going and to educate people on this. So I will say, I'm very grateful she did that. The thing that is striking me as weird is on page 195, she's talking about how much IVF is going to cost, which is usually, most people's biggest hurdle to it is, I can't afford this. This is going to be too expensive.
It's very expensive.
Yeah. And then she talks on that page, she says, in 2017, I started a home-based business while still working full-time. We had extra money that we had no plans for, so we were able to pay cash for the procedures with no financial burdens. And I was over here like, wait. It seemed like she's saying, because I'm in paparazzi, my MLM company has helped me be able to pay for my IVF treatments, which is like the most emotionally manipulative shit of all time. I was like, oh, no. We don't like that.
Yeah, she hints at that in Ira's Girls a lot, too. That is actually, page 195, I circled it, because that is the first time she even mentions starting a home-based business. Like, I literally wrote, enter Paparazzi. Like, that's page 195 is the first time she even mentions having a home-based business, I think a few times before she talks about being an entrepreneur or something like that, but I agree. But, the other thing is, too, is that because she has sickle cell anemia, the place that she said she was getting her treatments through, if she doesn't end up having a baby, which right now, today, she's done IVF 7 times, they will refund her all her money. If they have like a baby guarantee, if they can't get it to you, then they refund your money if you qualify, because she has sickle cell anemia, that she qualifies. So she's probably going to get all that money back anyway. So not that's like her fault, It's like,
but no, it's good that she's able. I mean, that's good that they have that I think that's money back promise. I think that's really nice. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I even wrote that when she mentioned that. I think I just wrote, like, that's legit amazing. Like, because you don't hear about that very often. And I know a lot of fertility issues are because of other, like, underlying health issues and stuff like that. And I think it's safe to say that Erica's sickle cell anemia probably plays a role. I mean, I'm not her doctor or whatever, but, like, I'm sure that has something to do with... Well, didn't she say she has PCOS also? Didn't she mention that?
Was it her, or was it one of her sisters that has it? I can't remember.
I don't remember now, but I know it's mentioned in here somewhere. I don't know. Either way, obviously there's like kind of underlying health issues there and stuff. So it's almost refreshing to hear of an in vitro fertilization clinic that's just like, if we can't get you a baby, you don't have to pay for it. Which I didn't know that was a thing, which is really great.
That is great. So I was glad to see her not pushing paparazzi too hard in this book, but there were also times where you knew she was alluding to it and was trying to get that message into your mind that paparazzi made things better and things like that.
She's pretty much not allowed to.
She's not allowed to.
Yeah, paparazzi is very strict about basically, like, you can't even go and, like, sell Girl Scout cookies on your own Facebook page if you're also using that Facebook page to sell paparazzi. It's against their policies and procedures. So I think, even though Miss Erica Cole is paparazzi's golden child, her and Carla Neal Pierce are the two I always hear about. But since she's, like, such a golden child with paparazzi, you would think that they'd want her to sing the praises in this book. But even on Ira's Girls, she doesn't mention paparazzi, even though she's constantly wearing paparazzi jewelry. Everything in her life is because of paparazzi. Paparazzi's policies and procedures and stuff basically say, like, if you have another business, like, it can't have anything to do with paparazzi. Like, they need to stay separate. And maybe because she's making money on this book, she couldn't say that. Yeah.
Right.
They're very strict about really weird, like, information control stuff in paparazzi, from what I understand. So... People have literally gotten terminated for selling Girl Scout cookies, so...
That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because there's this part where she's talking about her awful boss, the one who was racist about her coworker's hair, and how he fired her when... So she was talking about, like... I guess this is one where she declared bankruptcy. Her awful boss asked why I did not tell him. I responded, honestly, I did not feel it was any of your business. And she goes on, which is true. And she says he disagreed and felt that as an officer of the credit union, my financial status was important. He shared that our CEO would be made aware and he would follow up. And then they ended up firing her.
Which is messed up.
Which is messed up. And I was like, this is a great example of why your work life and your personal life are allowed to stay separate and should be able to stay separate. It is not your boss's business what's going on in your personal life, and them firing you for something that has nothing to do with your actual performance at the job is extremely awful of them. When I see things like that, it's like, this is an example of why we should be able to keep those things separate. And then it's very frustrating to see someone who has that message also be pushing an MLM where the whole message is, your life is this business, where to the point where she is having extreme health issues but still going to a convention where COVID is rapidly spreading and things like that all at once. And it's like, this is not healthy right here. And that's not a good thing to promote. But the message is there about how we should be able to keep our work and our life separate, but then over here the message is the complete opposite. So it was frustrating to see that.
I guess we probably should put in here too that, because like people are going to be like, what? A paparazzi distributor filed bankruptcy? This was obviously before she joined paparazzi, but basically
This was before paparazzi.
Long story short, she lost her living situation in Hurricane Katrina. What year was that? 2005. 2005. And then she used her insurance payment from that situation to invest in rental properties across, I think, Georgia, maybe? One of those southern states. And then obviously when 2008, the housing market crashed, she basically had a very bad financial situation after that, which was common back then because it was a big deal. That's why she filed bankruptcy.
So those situations were not her fault. Those were just, that was a string of just very bad luck that hit her in those moments. So again, I feel for her for being in those situations, especially one right after the next. I guess for her, paparazzi was the answer because she got rich, but I don't imagine the same thing is true for all the women in her downline who have overwhelmingly lost money, if the statistics are anything to go by.
Oh, yeah, and the statistics say that paparazzi is one of the worst companies to invest in as far as return on investment. Like, paparazzi is like LuLaRoe in the way where, like, you basically have to carry an inventory. Even though, like, paparazzi, they have the website and customers can go and buy from your website, but, like, in general, that's not what's happening. In general, these people are buying a bunch of inventory. So there's a large initial investment in that. Same with like LuLaRoe. That's why I'm always just like, anytime I hear any of these people be like, oh, this is your ticket out of poverty, basically, it's like, no. And the issue is also, and I feel like paparazzi is going to change this. They have to, because their compensation plan right now is basically what LuLaRoe's was before it got sued into oblivion for being a pyramid scheme. Basically, uplines and paparazzis only get their bonuses based on what their downline buys as inventory and not actually what they sell. So, of course, it's in her best interest and every other upline's best interest to have the downline buying as much as inventory as possible, whether or not they're going to sell it. I think that's why I focus so much on paparazzi a lot, because I just think that's so gross. They're literally like, you need to buy all this inventory to keep your business afloat and keep making money. And it's like, in reality, they're spending all this money on jewelry they'll never sell. And she's, and all the other uplines are making bank off of it. So, yeah, it sucks.
So, Savannah, overall, what did you think of Erica's memoir / self-help book / guided journal to become a better boss babe?
It's very hard. I have mixed feelings, like we've been pretty much saying the whole time. The book is written quite badly. It's not edited well at all. Her story is compelling. Hearing about her struggles with racism, infertility, Hurricane Katrina, her sister's murder, like, she's been through some shit, and it really makes you feel for her. Yes. And we're rooting for you. We want to root for you.
We're rooting for you the whole time, yeah.
But then there are moments. It just goes back and forth. Like, there would be one page where I would write, like, nice things about Erica, or be like, yeah, that's what's up, girl power, yeah. And then, like, literally the next page I'd be like, but this doesn't make sense, Erica. Why are you saying this? Why did you do that? It's like, you can't hold a grudge against someone for making bad decisions and stuff, because she did have some relationships that weren't great. She was married. I didn't know that she was married before, because she's married to Brian now, which we hate Brian. I hate Brian.
I don't know anything about Brian other than this book. Well, tell me about Brian.
I texted Savvy, too, when I was reading this, and I was like, when she introduces Brian, I'm like, she is going to talk this man up like he is Jesus himself. And I'm like, don't believe it, dude, because Brian's awful.
Oh, okay, dude. I thought when you were telling me that her husband was awful, I thought you were talking about her first husband.
No, I was talking about Brian.
Wait, Brian's awful? Oh, wait,
Brian
I didn't know.
Sucks.
What did Brian do?
Oh, he's a misogynistic, narcissistic asshole. But this is just based off
she makes him sound so nice the whole book. She's like...
That's why I texted you, and I was like, don't believe it.
she's always talking about how he's so optimistic, how like everything, he keeps always assuring her that everything's gonna be okay, and that she feels that he's the only man that's ever like been there for her, and he's like awful. Oh, I didn't even know.
Awful in the sense of, so like in Ira's Girls, he like, because you know they're going through the whole infertility stuff, and Erica's like obviously the one getting all the shots and the procedures and stuff, and all Brian had to do was jerk off into a cup, and you know, he didn't have to do shit.
It's very unfair for men in this. Yeah, in general.
And meanwhile, Erica's having miscarriages and having all this trauma and stuff, and Brian, like, I mean, first of all, we talked about before, like, obviously it's like religion is a coping mechanism, but Brian's just that guy who's just like, you know, maybe like this, God has a reason for doing this, for taking our baby, basically. And I'm like, that's not helping right now, Brian. But no, for the most part, it was like when Erica was pregnant, while they were like, there was a happy episode where they were like preparing, telling everyone about the pregnancy and stuff, which is very sad in retrospect. But Brian was just like, he's not going to change the diapers. He's not going to wait. Like, he's like, a real man wouldn't wear a baby, like how they strap babies to their chests and stuff like that. He's like, I'm not wearing that baby. Basically, like, refusing to take care of it. There's just so many little things. I'm like, Brian, shut the fuck up. Like, there was one episode, and Erica talked about it in this book too, about like how it was one of the best days of her life when she threw that graduation party for Bryson, which is also funny because that's Brian's son, and it's named Bryson.
You know, weirder names have happened, yeah.
No, but I honestly think, like, knowing Brian, being like, I'm pretty sure he's an absolute narcissist. I'm like, he probably told the first wife, like, I would like to name him Brian Jr., please. And she said, no. Can you come up with something else? And he's like, okay, well, I'm Brian and he's my son, so let's do Bryson. And it's like, I don't know. It's just a stupid joke. But anyway, so she was throwing that graduation party for him, and everyone was on edge while they were setting stuff up, and they were all, like, arguing and stuff, and Brian walks in and he's just like looking around. Erica's running around doing all this stuff, like trying to get things together, and Brian just goes, sits his ass down on the phone, is just like like doesn't even like try to help, like nothing like that. Like, there's just little things. And then in this book, when she first introduced Brian, they meet at a nightclub because Brian allegedly keeps bumping into her. And she's like, eventually I was just like, why? Like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, you want my attention? Let's dance. It's like, no, you douchebag. You were bumping into her. You were being a jerk.
There was one red flag I noticed about Brian that I didn't know all this other stuff about him, but there was one place where, I don't remember where it is exactly, but it's that it's where she's talking about adjusting to her role as a stepmom, which can be difficult, which I related to all of that, not because I've been a stepmom, but because there have been a lot of step parents in places in my family and things like that, and I can see how, you know, when you could bring a family together like that, it can be very difficult. But so I'm glad she talked about it, but at the same time I felt that Brian really didn't stand up for her in a lot of these cases, like when Bryson gets sick and has to go to the ER,
that broke my freaking heart.
They only allow 3 people to go in with him, so they don't let Erica go in. They obviously his mom and Brian are gonna go in, but they let his grandma go in instead of Erica, which is like, why didn't Brian stand up for her and be like, no, let's let Erica get to go in and be with her stepson as well.
And for the record, the reason that Erica really should have been allowed to go in is because she was trying to get, like, he had pneumonia. Bryson had pneumonia and a collapsed lung.
They were like, he's probably fine. Just let him sleep it off. Like, nobody. Yeah.
And Erica
she was the only one who took him to the hospital. And
she couldn't take him to the hospital because she wasn't the biological parent. So she was like trying to get the insurance information and stuff from Bryson's mom, and she was just like, I'm sure he's fine. And then she was calling Brian like, we got to bring Bryson to the hospital, and he's just like, I'm sure he's fine. She's like, they were all just laughing it off. The grandma was laughing it off, and she's like, no, he needs to go to the hospital. And then Brian gets home and is like, oh, well, let's just see how he does. And it's like, how do you ignore that a kid has a collapsed lung and pneumonia? So Erica's doing all this work to get them to take Bryson to the hospital, and no one's letting her do it. Like, that's just another typical Brian, not caring about anyone else other than himself, just being like, he's just being dramatic. Yeah, that pissed me off. I did, when I was just like flipping through, because I knew I had written notes about like classic Brian. I found one that I wrote, and it's on page 209, when they were talking about how Erica like getting IVF and stuff. I highlighted this part because I was like, Jesus Christ. Okay. It just says, Brian was not worried about never being a parent or having an heir because Bryson was his biological child. And I just wrote classic Brian, only caring about himself. It's just like, oh, Brian doesn't care if me and him have a biological child together because he's already got his heir. He's already got his oldest son. He's going to carry on the Cole name. And he doesn't care. It's like, he should care because that would be his child. I just don't think Brian he's not fit to be a freaking parent. He's not fit to support Erica through all this. And that was made very clear by watching those episodes of Ira's Girls. He's just a jerk, man. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Brian sucks. There was like a few red flags in there that I was like, am I just judging him too hard? But no, after everything else you told me about how he doesn't like intend to take care of the kid, how he's just being lazy all the time, and
there's more to it. I just I don't remember all this stuff because like there's just been like every time Brian shows up in an episode of Ira's Girls, like me and the chat, we're always just like fucking Brian, like classic Brian, you know, like, oh, there goes Brian again being a jerk. Yeah, he sucks. Apparently, because in the book she says that he was an entrepreneur when she met him, and I don't know what that business venture was, but I've been told that since then, since Erica started making all the money with Paparazzi, that Brian is unemployed and he just like hangs out all day and does nothing. So, okay. Okay. Classic Brian.
Classic Brian. But if they do have a kid, he's not going to help raise the kid at all because he's a man. So even if she makes all the money, he's still going to do nothing. She just has to do all the work on both ends and he does nothing.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Yep,
that's Brian. Okay.
That's typical Brian, dude. Yeah.
Brian sucks.
Yeah, Brian sucks. We don't like Brian. Now listen, like compared to her ex-husband who cheated on her and stuff and was just a total asshole, all like from start to finish, this guy sucked. Brian's probably an upgrade, yeah, I would say so. But I'm just like, come on, Erica, you're dealing with this? Like, Brian sucks! Oh, I just saw that Erica, she did have PCOS.
Oh, she did? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so she was dealing with a lot of things that make it difficult for her. Yeah.
Okay, because I'm remembering, too, one other thing that I know that Brian did that pissed us all off, and she even mentions it in the book, is that Brian's really into fasting, and he was basically telling Erica in Ira's Girls, like, we gotta fast, like, before getting the IVF transfers and stuff, because it would please God, basically. And, yeah, and so in here... Yeah, it says, just before going to see the specialist, my husband and I decided to fast and pray as a family. And I'm like, I wrote, fasting to bribe God to give you a pregnancy is shitty and makes no sense. Like, and that's what we were always saying
also,
in the chat,
like,
too.
Did the doctor think that fasting would help at all? Or, like, because
I doubt the doctor knew.
Fast before a medical procedure, you should, you always need to communicate that with your doctor if you're fasting.
Well, I think they usually have you do, like, a 12-hour fast or something the day before, like, an appointment like that or a treatment like that. But like, no, Brian was like, every time they were talking about this in Ira's Girls with Brian regarding the IVF transfers, he was like, yep, we need to fast. And it's like, this is weird.
That is
not
weird.
Only like Erica really probably should be eating, like her body probably needs, like she probably doesn't need to be starving herself in the name of Jesus. Like, it's just, to me, I understand if you're in that mindset where it's like, if we want God to bless us with a child, like we got to do what would please him, I guess. But like, I don't think God would like recommend that you do that because like that's just biologically not a healthy thing to do. Anyway,
sucks.
how do you feel about Broken Pieces Created My Purpose by Erica Alexander Cole?
Like you, I had a lot of mixed feelings. There were, like I said, places where I felt like the writing had potential, where she could have brought out certain metaphors and created stronger imagery around that. There were other times where I was like, why are there so many typos in this? Why are there so many mistakes? Why are you never orienting us in time and space? Or why are you saying so many extremely vague things that lead to nothing? Mm-hmm. There were a lot of things that didn't make sense. It's very obvious that this was never edited, that she just kind of wrote it really quick and put it out there because not only the mistakes, but just also like it didn't go through any revisions clearly of like what order things should be told in or how it should be organized or where she should bring out more detail on certain things and establish what year we're in, what's going on, those kind of things. Overall, you know, I had to keep in mind that a lot of these things are her being an MLM like coach for other women who she wants to recruit into her downline and she wants to coach them and things like that, so she is going to make herself look look as reputable as a business coach as possible. So when she says these things about her home-based business opportunity that afforded her extra money to do things like that, those moments were really off-putting. But then there were other moments where she felt very honest and very real about the struggles that she's gone through and what she's learned from them and how she's grown as a person. And I thought that those moments were nice because she does go into so much detail about very personal and very traumatic things that have happened to her, and I appreciate her openness about that. So if I were to rate this book, I would probably give it like 2.5 stars, maybe. Maybe I'll round it up to 3. Definitely not like a good book, but it also has some places where it has a lot of potential, but then there's other places where I'm like, oh, this is really going in the wrong direction. So mixed feelings, yeah.
Would you consider this to be like an engaging read? Because I had some, like the chapter about Shay, I'm like, yes, I'll read this whole thing and I'll devour it. But like other times I was just like, this is so boring. Like
there were things that were boring, yeah.
The last few chapters, actually, I'm like, why are these even here? There was like one chapter where she was just like briefly bringing up random people and being like, here's my relationship with them. Here's how I met this person.
Yeah, there were places like that. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to the outside
and that's kind of how she ended the book too. It was just kind of like, I was like, why is this here? It's just kind of like, look, all these people in my lives, these are the broken pieces that put me back together and all this stuff, and also God. And it's like, okay, like we could have done without these last probably 2 chapters, really. So it was like a struggle to finish it at that point. But like when she would go in and tell stories like about her struggles and stuff, I feel like they were engaging. But then she'd go off about Jesus stuff, and then it's like, okay, like I
definitely think she has an engaging personality. I think her voice strongly comes through in here, and it's very clear, because I like when she has moments where she talks to the reader, where she shows some of her opinions, some of her attitude about things. I like that. I felt that she has a strong voice, and you really get a sense of her personality, but that only can take you so far if you're going to start telling unrelated stories that aren't tying into anything else, and that it's not clear what's going on. The voice isn't going to be able to save that when it comes to those moments. So there were definitely, again, I think this book just really needed to be edited. There were a lot of places that need to be trimmed down, other places that needed to be expanded on and made more detailed, and then some places where we could have just cut the entire story altogether. Like some of the people that she talks about towards the end that don't have any relation to anything else in the book, like
never mentioned
Circle of
at
Influence,
all.
that chapter 17, Circle of Influence, where she just talks all about like friends that she's had throughout her life and people that she's worked with and things like that. It's like, that's cool, and if it tied into anything else or if it went anywhere, maybe. But right now, I'm just being introduced to a ton of people all at once that I'm not going to be able to remember all their names. And as a reader who's not as familiar with your life, it's not really translating over to me. So there were some places like that that I would say, again, I think an editor could have done a lot to make this book a lot better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I agree. But in general, I mean, I guess I could say it wasn't as bad as I expected.
It was not as bad as I expected. I agree. It wasn't, yeah. Like, I've read a lot of Boss Babe books in my day, and I think Eric Worre's book is much worse. I think
really?
Ray Higdon's book is much worse. All of those people who are other MLM trainers, I think they focus less on sharing stories and showing what they learned from them, and more just on, here's why you gotta hustle harder, you gotta do more work, you gotta work more, you gotta never stop work. Like, it's just all that, and this book had more of a humanized element to it. We really got to see her as a person, so I think that automatically made it better and easier to connect to.
Thanks for reading this book with me.
Of course. Thank you for reading this book with me. I'm glad we got to do a book review together.
I wouldn't have known how to go about this because I don't read, so.
You don't well, I think you did a good job. I think you did a good job knowing what worked and what didn't in this book, because at the end of the day, it's about the reader's perspective, not about having necessarily specialized knowledge. Yeah.
But you were a big help in this, so thank you.
So were you, because you have all the background, like, you've been delving into paparazzi for so long, so you know a whole lot more about that side of it, so that's great. Everybody, thanks so much for watching.
Bye.
So what did you guys think of our discussion of Erica Cole's book, Broken Pieces Created My Purpose? Have any of you guys read this book, or have you read similar types of books by similar types of businesswomen, and have you had similar types of impressions? Regardless of what you thought, please let me know all your feelings about all of this in the comments below, and let me know if you have recommendations for other books in the same type of genre that you'd like me to read. I know I've read Eric Worre's book, I've read Ray Higdon's book, I've read a bunch of books by MLMers talking about their best business advice and things like that. Don't forget as well to make sure you watch the other half of this video over on Savannah's channel, which I have linked in the description below. Thank you again to my sponsor for this video. I will see all of you guys again next week for more videos, but in the meantime, keep on supporting small businesses, not MLM companies, but legitimate small businesses, and have a fantastic start to your weekend. Bye!
Get you some nuts.
Yeah, you effing.
Up yours, woke moralist. We'll see who cancels who.